Okay, I think I'm recording. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to start with here today was just looking at our classroom. And so let me just bring this up here, the little players in the way. So we've got a couple of things to cover. And there's, by the way, there's two different sections of this class. I'm teaching both sections. The first one is, like I said, it's like an on-ground class, even though we are Monday and Wednesday, 12 to noon. There's no place up here where I can add a discussion, or like in the other class, I can add a section topic, and those students would be able to upload stuff just right to that area. So this is what the other section of that class looks like. This is what ours looks like. All right, so we're going to be going over storyboarding, hand-drawn animation, stop motion animation, cutouts, pixelation, claymation, Maya, and then there's a little bit right at the end with Luxo. So there are some alternatives if you are having trouble installing Maya. I'll pull it from the other section, but there is another application that you can use instead of Maya. And my coordinator has also put in a new, let me see if it just comes up. I don't think it's going to come up right there. He put in a new Flipbook Studio thing for doing a flipbook, and I will let everybody know about that. But basically, we're going to be doing storyboarding today, and then we'll be doing our hand-drawn animation on Wednesday. So I just sent it out to everyone, and I think that I wanted to wait until almost the last minute because I know how the rosters kind of move around, they change, and people drop and add. So the first thing that I wanted to do was just open up this one. Oh, actually, let me do this the other way. I had to take my website down early last year, just because I wasn't getting any hits and I was running out of money and I was panicking and all that fun stuff. So this is me. If you just go to Internet Movie Database, I don't have a lot of stuff up there. But I'm there. Hey, did I spell my name? Here we go. So I started my career in animation working on commercials and CD-ROMs and games and stuff at Colossal Pictures in 1992. And these are my films. I worked on James and the Giant Peach. I did all the 2D special effects. For Puccini, I did character design, background designs, animation. The main principal animation was done in Taiwan. The same thing with Fern Gully. I did some character designs for backgrounds and walk cycles. I worked on Fern Gully 2 for almost a year. And then there's my MFA film. I have my MFA in animation and visual effects. I graduated from the Academy in 2017. And you can see all the fun stuff related to that. So that's me. That is me. And looking at me, what I wanted to put out there for everyone is that I don't like my last name. It's like the whole history of why, but I'm not going to go into it. So just call me Billy. Just call me Billy, or Professor, or Mr. Billy, or whatever. But don't use my last name. I hate my last name. Pinky swear from everyone across the room. Just call me Billy, or Professor Billy, or whatever. All right, let me get this attendance thing here. Okay, so let me go ahead and move that over. Let me go back to our class here. So let me continue just a couple of points from my notes. And that is that I think that the class starts out really quickly by going into storyboarding. I wanted to take a few moments of your time and just talk about the principles of animation. I also wanted to do a couple of announcements for you before we actually even get started. So let's make this visual. We'll just go back to our Internet Movie Database here. I think that you all should be aware of Klaus. This was done the end of 2019. Sergio Pablo animation. It was actually nominated for an Academy Award, and it's just a really beautiful, absolutely splendid film. So if you get a chance, I believe this was on Apple TV Plus. It wasn't the easiest place to find it, but it's worth it. This is a beautiful film, an unexpected ending, great characterization. Sergio Pablo really did a wonderful job on this. So pay attention to Klaus. Absolutely wonderful film. All right, then last year, Wolfwalkers came out. Wolfwalkers is Tom Moore from the Cartoon Saloon in Kilkenny, Ireland. And this is just phenomenal. Again, these are both 2D animated films, a lot coming from my realm. And from my point of view, the Cartoon Saloon, Tom Moore, Ross Stewart they can't do anything wrong. This film is just absolutely astonishing, just absolutely wonderful. So if you get a minute, I think this one is on Netflix. I think Wolfwalkers was on Netflix. It usually doesn't tell you there. All right, so then a couple other things to pay attention to. I liked Raya, The Last Dragon. Oops, not picking up my keyboard. I had a chance to see this when it actually started streaming last month. And I think that, oops, I got the wrong one. So I thought this was really good. In a master class, I could very easily just tear this movie apart and critique it. We're not going to have to do that. I think that it's just pretty enjoyable. From my point of view, there's a couple of story point problems that just the more you think about it, the more they kind of make you mad. It's like, wait, how did that happen? But I think it's really wonderful. Just for interesting stories and character development is really great too. All right, and then this just came out a couple weeks ago from our pals over at Pixar. Luca is just really good. I just highly recommend it. I think that it's different in terms of expectations. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the film that's just not expected. I think they're trying some things that are just new and innovative, and I think it's absolutely worth your while. So if you get a chance, check out Luca. Really, absolutely wonderful. All right, so then from my notes, let me see if it's going to come up right now. It might be. So I'm just looking at Pinocchio. Pinocchio is going to be coming out. Let's see what it's got here. This is Guillermo del Toro directing at the. Hey, did I click on the right thing? Yeah. It's looking kind of weird though. It's not what I want. It's being animated at
Guillermo del Toro wished upon it.
Shadow Machine up in Portland, Oregon. Shadow Machine is responsible for doing the production of BoJack Horseman, but they're doing it in stop motion. So I think this is just a strange article here. But pay attention to this. It's supposed to be coming out near the end of the year. And the odd thing is if I go backwards here, I went too far. There's like, there's like a wave of Pinocchio movies coming out. Roberto Benigni had just done a live action version, and someone else is doing another live action. There's like 6 Pinocchio movies coming out just within the span of a couple of years. I think that was just kind of interesting. Currently, I'm working on a film called The Jinx of Hecate, and it is not going to be coming out until probably next year. And there's nothing online yet. They're still in the middle of production. I finished my animation on special effects and painting about a year ago, and it's going to take another year in post-production to come out. So if you remember, pay attention to a film called The Jinx of Hecate. All right, so the first thing that I wanted to bring up here was just this puppy. And this was emailed to everybody just about 45 minutes ago or so. And what I had done was, and I've been teaching animation for many years. I taught at the Academy, I taught at the Art Institute. I teach at Kenyatta College. Right now I'm getting my credential to teach high school art. But I've been teaching art and animation for about 20 years. And a lot of times what you'll see is you'll have an animation textbook, and the animation textbook, if it's not The Illusion of Life, won't have the principles of animation spelled out in it. I'm not sure if the authors are worried about getting in a copyright violation, or just staying away from the idea that the Disney studio owns the rights for saying the principles of animation. But the principles of animation basically in The Illusion of Life, which was published in 1981 by the greats of animation, just kind of had the principles listed there randomly. And as an instructor, I wanted to make it more rememberable, something almost like a mnemonic device where you can look at this and say, what are the principles of animation? Divide them up into the title. Getting anything to move is the illusion of life. And so that's your first relative principle. And then you divide it up into movement, story, art, camera, exaggeration, and process. In movement, you have timing and weight and easing in and easing out and spacing of the drawings. Everything in animation moves on an arc. If anything moves in animation, it just naturally needs an anticipation first. Squash and stretch was listed as the first principle of animation in the 1981 release of The Illusion of Life. Cycling was never used in Disney animation, but in games, it's one of the things that saves memory. So I put cycling in there just because as an animator, you probably need to know how to cycle stuff. It's usually a really good idea. And then there's a ton of things that fall under the category of overlapping action. Things are moving in 2 different directions. Something is dragging behind it. There's one thing moves one way and it causes the part of the body to move another way. That's counteraction. Successive breaking of joints. In story, you have acting. We've always known that as an animator, you are an actor with a pencil. You have to have appeal. What are your characters? Who are they? What are they doing? Why do you want to go on a journey with them? That's all under the category of story. In animation, whether it's 2D or 3D or stop motion, whatever, you're always dealing with art. And from the original list, solid drawing is basically drawing like 3D. And in any drawing you ever do for whatever storyboard, key action pose, it has to have a line of action. Art is based on perspective and style and aesthetics. And then we get to the last part down here where always when you're dealing with anything in animation, you're dealing with the camera first. Animation can live without a camera. It can live as a flip book. It can live as a zoetrope. It can live as a praxinoscope. It doesn't always need a screen. But for the large majority, animation uses and utilizes a screen. And because of that, you want to talk about your audience. So who is the audience for? Is it for kids, or is it for high school students? Is it for adults? Who is this animation for? What is the story for? And then almost all of the other principles of animation can be exaggerated. So I put exaggeration as its own principle. Timing can be exaggerated. Squash and stretch can be exaggerated. It could be under exaggerated, where the motion can look very live action. And then on the opposite side of it, it can be very, very cartoony. And then the original authors had put in pose to pose versus straight ahead as number 4 principle of animation. And that's just a production thing. That's just how are you making this? Are you just adding one drawing right on top of each other? Or are you drawing out the keys and going back in and doing the breakdowns and the in-betweens? And so I thought that you should have this, just because it organizes the principles of animation fairly well. All right, and then, so let's talk about this one first, because we're going to talk about storyboarding. All right, so what I had done in my span of teaching classes for 20 years was had a storyboard template that might look something like this. So I'm just going to type into a search window 16:9 storyboard panel. And I'm going to switch it to images, and you'll see that you're going to get a whole bunch of image references. And not all of them are following the rules of looking by 16:9. 16:9 is HD, it's high definition. You can tell that this one right here is not HD. It's not 16:9, it's wider. So all of the other ones, they're looking okay. But there's a couple of things that we wanted to talk about when we're talking about storyboarding. And that is that it's usually a good idea to do thumbnails first. And I have my own version of this one, which I just hate this one. There's no place to draw. The little frames are all just stuck right next to each other. You know, this is a little bit too formal, this one. And this is square. Don't use square. It should be 16:9. So I think like the best one that you can see here is this one. It's pretty good. There's at least room to draw on the top and bottom. The frames are kind of shoved close to each other sideways. Some are better than others. This is an example of what certain ratios would look like. The original ratio for Academy, which was 4:3, and then you have 1:8:5. So this one doesn't even have 16:9. So you can see that there's a lot of options out there. There's all kinds of things that you can try to pull from the internet to try to help you. Like I said, my guess is something like this works best. But I wanted to go back to this. What I have here is just a piece of cardboard. And this I sent to you as a JPEG. You could actually print it out or just save it and just look at it, and you could make your own story templates. And so I have 2 different things going on here. This is 3 inches by 1.687 inches. And 3 inches is a really good size to draw a thumbnail. And then I have this at 16:9 ratio. And then I have the 3-inch set for the golden mean as well, which is a completely different ratio. And you can kind of see that it's a little taller, and you might have use for both of these. So you can certainly use this. This is a really good first pass at doing a storyboard. This one right here, this one on the bottom left. And so you make this. This is what you make out of it. You can either redraw this or print it. If you print it on regular paper, it's going to be really hard to cut this out. I have it set here on just a cardstock so that when I cut it out, you can actually use this to do your framing. And then that way you can just draw on anything. You could draw on a piece of blank paper. And then I have the companion pieces here for the 2-inch size. So this 16:9 ratio is set for a thumbnail. So this is a very small, just a little sketch. Again, you could just draw freehand and then go back in and figure out where you want your composition to be, both for the 16:9 and the golden mean. For you, the sticking with these two on the bottom here first is ideal. All right, as long as we're talking about this, I also sent this to you, which is, and we will need this when we're doing the stop motion portion in next week. I've taught this class any number of times before, and the thing that just is always the issue is getting your camera set up correctly. A lot of you try to use your cell phone to record images, and if you're going to do that, then you need to pay attention to making sure that your camera is locked down and in the same place every single time. So starting from just the center drawing right here, I have a drawing of a bat flying right here, and you can see that there's a little light and that the camera right here is on a little shelf, and there's some small weights, and this little box here isn't moving around too much, and there's a window over here on the left so that it's lighting up from one direction and then lighting up from another. Having multiple indirect light sources is always a really good idea. You don't want any dark spots in here. This is a close-up of your camera. And so on this little piece of wood or cardboard or whatever, I have just little pieces of cardboard or wood taped or glued here so that your camera is always in the same place. Right? Everyone understand that little drawing? This is what it would look like from the front view. And then this is what the side view looking right down here at the edge of this. This is called registration. When you have your camera being in the same place every single time, that's called registration. Again, we'll need this when we're recording our paper cutouts and stop motion stuff, but I don't want your camera to be floating. It's impossible to be holding your camera and recording and moving whatever the animation is around at the same time. All right, so those three things you should have. Let me go back to the classroom here. So let's just talk about storyboarding for just a moment. I think that it's kind of an interesting thing here because the other class starts out by doing a flip book. And so for us, they use the same little picture, but instead of doing a hand-drawn flip book, we're just doing storyboarding. So it's one of those things that is what's called life. So storyboarding is just the act of taking the script and drawing thumbnails out of it. So there's a couple of things that are absolutely really important here. And that is that this thing has to be doable. You know, I don't think that you want to be doing storyboards for a short film that's any more than just like a minute or a minute and a half long. And so having said that, let's just talk about a couple of things straight away. I'm just going to jump over to YouTube for a second. And on my channel, I'm subscribed to a studio in London called Bird Box Studio. And they do commercials for UK television stuff. You might have seen some of these. They hit the meme world once and then now and again. But let's just take a look at this one. This one is a minute and a half long. Oh, you know what? Hold on a second. If I do that, I won't be able to post this on YouTube. Let me pause my video. What is this now? Yeah, that was weird. I'm getting a strange little thing here. All right, so I'm going to. Okay. Any questions so far? Any questions from anybody? I got my chat open.
I had a question.
Yes.
So when we print out the storyboard the cardstock storyboard template,
Yeah.
if we print it out on an 8x11 cardstock, could we just cut that out and use that for the storyboard? Is that what you were saying we should do?
Well, let me show you what I've got. This might answer your question more specifically. And I also realized that this is going to have a lot to do with how you present this to me, because if there's no discussion area in the classroom, it's going to be really hard. But let me just show you what I've got. The piece of cardboard that I had, it started out like this. Actually, I'm going to turn off my background just for a moment. All right, so it just started out like this. This is it's right from the JPEG that you have. That was my original drawing of just taking this actual piece of cardboard and cutting them out. So you can see that it's the thing that would be on the bottom side of any pad of paper, right? You just got any kind of pad of paper, there's always that little cardboard thing there. And so what I had done was I cut these out so that now I have these. And there's a couple of reasons why I did it like this and not like anything else. I did it like this because I wanted to make sure that there was at least a ½ inch of cardboard around the edge of it, right? Because if it was too wide, if it was too big, I wouldn't know where it was. This one, it's almost too much paper because I don't know where the other drawing is. I have to kind of pick it up and look around at it. So this one is the ideal. The thing that I drew for you, it's ideal. And then on this one, I have the two different sizes. This is the golden mean. This is my 16:9 ratio. So this is the best one. And then that way, just get yourself a piece of blank paper and draw the storyboard wherever you want it. All right. So having said that, does that make sense, everyone? All right. So then I have a bunch of other things too. And the other things are that whenever I'm doing any kind of illustration or something, I might want to go square. So this one is just completely square. And the reason for this is because I've been doing a couple of things that are related to social media. And Instagram wants their thing to be square. So instead of letting Instagram cut and edit, I just use this. All right, and then I have a couple other sizes. This one is just a little bigger, a little smaller than the other one that I had. And this one is actual thumbnail size, which I just showed you. And then I'm getting a little jumbled here. And then I have ones that are really big. So this is like bigger than final production size. So this one is, again, the golden mean is on top, the 16:9 is on top, and the golden mean is on the bottom. So once again, so this is huge. Storyboards are very rarely drawn this big. If I was going to be using something this big, I would be using it for a background. And then I have just a bunch of different sizes. This one is This one is like 1:8:5 ratio. And then I think there's even another one in here where I was doing things with pastels. And this was huge, right? This is like the whole piece of paper. And the reason that I have this one is because you want to make sure that your composition is correct. So when this one is if I'm using chalk or pastel, and then this one's just a little bit smaller than that. So these templates, I think, work really well. You spend just a moment of time making, again, one that is about just the size I gave you. The 3-inch size of 16:9. This is the best thing that you can do, because then you can just draw your storyboard panels wherever you want. You don't have to print anything out. You're not set with a printer. You could just draw on any kind of blank piece of paper that you want. Like, for instance, on this one, what I had done was just studying some composition things. You know, where are my focal points? Where are the elements inside the frame? What, you know, background, exterior, interior, tree, you know, so I'm playing around with line values. So I got these by using those templates. I also didn't create the line around the template too dark, because then I could figure out my composition more specifically. All right, so what I would like to do right at this moment is just take a 5-minute break, just a short 5-minute break. I'm gonna go get a drink of water, and then I'm gonna do a demo for you about how to just set up this first project for doing storyboard. So take a 5-minute break. Oops, hold on a second. Okay. So the next thing that I would like to talk about here is like 2 things right in a row, 3 things right in a row. The first thing right in a row, let me bring my chat back up here again. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing, hold on. Show chat, there we go. All right, so Ryan Abalos is asking, He's on his phone right now. Our storyboard usually is supposed to be done quickly or fast and then refined later. And then he asks the second question after that, is there going to be a list of the recommended? I don't know what that means. Yes, sometimes storyboards, the best thing you could do is just crash it out. Just do it as fast as possible. And you don't draw big, you just draw thumbnail size. And then you can go back and refine it later. Sometimes I've seen it where the artist is just taking the script and writing the script underneath the storyboard panels without any drawings at all, so that they know where the images are going to go. Oh, recommended sizes for the storyboards. Yeah, that 3 inches is usually a good size. This one right here. This 3-inch size is a good place to start, because you don't have to draw too big, you don't have to draw too small. All right, so then the second thing is I want to introduce you all to John Corellis. This is on Instagram. And what I would encourage you all to do right now is to write this down so that you can search for him. M-R-K-O-R-E-L-L-I-S, Mr. Corellis. He is in charge of the storyboard department at the Academy of Art University. He is your lead. And on his Instagram, he's featured a whole bunch of really great things related to drawing and storyboard. I mean, it's social media, so that there's other stuff on there. But like this stuff right here is just really great, where he's talking about how to compose, how to put characters in the dead center, looking at the rule of thirds, which we'll go over here in just a second. This is great about how he's presenting this to you. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here from Mr. Corellis on Instagram, John Corellis. Again, he's the head of the storyboard department at the Academy. John and I worked at Wild Brain in the 90s. He got a job at Wild Brain right out of Cal Arts. He was our lead storyboard guy at Wild Brain for many years. So, and then once you do this, you'll see that it's going to cross-reference a bunch of other artists for storyboarding as well. All right, and then you can do that same thing where you search any of the other social media for what storyboards actually look like. So if we just do an image, you're going to get everything, because I just put storyboards. So there's like different size panels, there's old style, there's things that are very loose and very rough, which is fine sometimes. You know, something like this can even be fairly useful, because you're bringing the written word into the script, into the visual image zone, if you will. You know, it's something like this is really great for production boards. They're really good, but there's not a lot of room to draw through the picture plane. That these are almost like you're just studying it, you're drawing thumbnails. I prefer things that are like this, where they're just really loose and really fast and really gestural. I do not like things like this, where the images are just all crammed up once against each other. It's like there's no room to breathe right there. So once again, I think that something like this or like this is a really good example. And again, there's lots of stuff out there on social media. This one doesn't have any information underneath here. Sometimes you do need to have the information, which we'll talk about right now. So in the storyboard world, there's an application called Rough Animator. And if you don't want to draw on paper, if you have a stylus and a tablet, You're more than welcome to try to draw this digitally. This application costs $5. It's called Rough Animator, and it's just really simple to use. It takes you about 20 minutes to learn the whole application. And here's what the application looks like. There's a bunch of windows open right now. We're going to be working at 24 frames per second. That's 24 images per second. Our camera size is 1280 by 720. That is an HD ratio. So if you know how to work with ratios, where did my calculator go? That's weird. Let's do this. There's my calculator. Oh, it's gone. Hold on. It's hiding behind the chat. 3 inches. Tiffany is asking 3 inches by what? So the ratio would be 3 inches by 1.6. Tiffany, 3 inches by 1.6. All right, in my calculator then, if I take the 1280 by 720, 1280 divided by 720, I get 1.7777. That's the ratio. If I take 16 by 9, I get the same exact ratio. So that's what I mean by 16 by 9 being a ratio. This 1.777 number is the ratio of height to width of the story screen. This monitor that I'm looking at you all at right now is 1.77. It's 16 by 9. All these little chat windows in Zoom are all 16 by 9. Everyone's using 16 by 9. So that's if you wanted to figure out 4 divided by 1.7777, then it would be 4 by 2.25. That would be your ratio. If you have 16 inches by 8 inches, that would be huge. Oh, what am I doing here? 16 by 9. I'm hitting the wrong button. If you have 8 divided by 4.5, it's the same ratio. All right, so 1280 by 720 is the ratio we're working with. Say okay, and you get your screen right here. So let's talk about a couple of the rules for storyboarding. I want to make sure I'm recording this. Screen sharing. Hold on 1 second, everybody. Just pause for 1 second. Okay, I am recording. All right, so let's talk about a couple of the general rules of storyboarding. First of all, you need a script. In this application right here, I don't have the ability to draw outside the frame. I can only draw inside the frame. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as like my little lecture point right here. And I'm going to draw a storyboard panel inside. And just pretend that that's a perfect square. This application doesn't have the ability to hold the shift key down to draw a perfectly straight line, but that's okay. All right, so this is a storyboard panel. Whenever you're drawing a storyboard panel, there's a couple of things that you want to do. The first thing that you want to do is always to make sure that you are using the correct ratio. So this is 16 by 9, which translates then to whatever. The translation would be that this is 3 inches by 1.6 inches. Once you've done this, you're obligated to pay attention to a couple of different things. And the first is dead center. There's a focal point in the dead center of your screen from your vertical and horizontal. It's not the best one. There are others. So the other ones are derived by looking at cinematic thirds. So if you take each of the height and the width and divide it up into thirds, this is called cinematic thirds. And where they cross, you have focal points that you want to deal with. In the world of animation, you want to stay away from the edge. This area out here is called action safe, and you just want to stay away from the edge. You don't want to have any animation that's important happening anywhere near the edge of the screen. So this is called action safe. And then there's another one inside it called title safe. And this is where you don't want any words. So if you're doing titles or anything, so this one here is called title safe. Action safe and title safe. Once you've drawn these parameters in here, you can kind of see that for whatever you started out with for your real estate, you've got an area to work with in here now. So you want to keep most of your action happening near the cinematic thirds, near the center, and you can expand this a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right. So you want to keep your action happening in an area just kind of like this. Just kind of give yourself that stage to work with. All right. So once you're doing this, there's a couple of things that I want you to all kind of think about, and that is that in the world of composition, it's always good to have a horizon that is at or around this first cinematic third vertical. And the reason for that is because this gives you a normal camera. If you put your horizon right here, right around the first cinematic third, that gives you a normal camera. If you put your vanishing point, let's say just off center a little bit, so this is your main vanishing point, then just start to build yourself your perspective grid. And everything goes to that single vanishing point. And get the grid so that there's also a grid in the sky. Whether you knew it or not, there's perspective in the sky. And so the first thing that's always a really good idea is to just draw your grid. And this is flat. There's nothing crazy happening here. So that's your vanishing point. This is your horizon and your perspective grid. This is just a 1-point perspective. It's just as simple as that. If you wanted to do anything for Thursday, I would say that, or for Wednesday, I would say that drawing this out is ideal. Working with the story right afterwards is going to be additionally ideal. There's a couple of things about this story panel here that you want to pay attention to in the world of film and an animation. I always pick the upper left to be the panel number. So this is just going to be panel number 001. So this is just panel number. In the very middle on the top is your sequence, and then your shot. I'm sorry, your sequence and your scene. Because we're going to be working with something that's just kind of short, you're not going to have to worry about sequencing and scenes. But over here you have your shot. So this is shot 1. In the upper right, you always put your shot number. So panel number and shot number. All right, and then on the bottom right, this is your timing. This is your slug down here. And that would be 2 seconds, whatever this panel lasts for, that would be 2 seconds. And you can write that as 2 seconds or 48 frames. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add a drawing after this. This is going to go away. You can always come back to it. So keeping in mind everything that we just drew there, I'm going to kind of redo part of it. And we're going to pick something. So if we jump over to our bird box thing, if you're going to use this little study here, then you would like look at the composition and you would say, oh, well, in this composition, the horizon is really below, it's really far below that cinematic thirds. Cinematic thirds are here. Your center is there. In this composition, there's a vanishing point that is right to the right. So, oops, hold on. So from this one, you would just draw the perspective grid like this. You would draw, there's a 3-point perspective actually. So there's a vanishing point way up here for the door. And that's just drawn very lightly. The little cabinet over here conforms to it as well. And again, this is just using it as an example here. And then you would draw your character. So once you start looking at the idea of drawing storyboards, you really should have a character. So if you don't have a character and you need to get this done by Wednesday, then just think about how you draw this character. He's composed of geometric parts. He's got, his feet are standing in perspective. So there's a little square on the ground where his feet land. He's got his little tail back here. He's got his little ears. All right, so it's a rough thumbnail. Whenever you're doing a thumbnail, you always want to work with items that are as gestural as possible. So I think that if you're studying this kind of pose, just take your video and play it, and then go, look, there's another pose there. So even on this same one, you can just take the dog, and how does he look? Look at the bend in his back right here. So what used to be like a square body over here, now he's in motion. He's got squashing and stretch happening to him. His legs are starting to move. His front legs are in a position. His ears are going backwards. His tail is overlapping. You know, give your character a little bit of tone so it separates him. All right. So this is like a really good option here, is to just stick with your original rules. Think about your focal points. Think about your vanishing point. Think about your 1-point perspective. Always thinking about action safe and title safe. Thinking about where the very center of the screen is. Where is your horizon? Where is your normal camera? If your horizon is anywhere around this cinematic third here, you're dealing with a normal camera. And to just study the idea of putting a pose out there. So that's one option. The other option is that you start to think about it like a story, and the stories have a beginning and a middle and an end. But for us, if our story is only going to be 30 seconds long, you know, it's just going to be a gag, you know. So what that ends up becoming is that you have a setup, the action, and then the payoff. So as long as you're doing anything on your own, the storyboard project would say, come up with a setup, come up with an action and a payoff. You're going to need a character. You might be able to have a second character. I like the example that I just showed you because it's got only one very simple character. But basically your beginning, your middle, and your end for 30 seconds or less has to have a setup, the action, and the payoff. All right, so when we write out our script, we'll just think of something. We can be inventive as we want just right at the moment. So let us so let's think about just the idea of what our script is. I'm going to come up, my character is going to be a bat. The setup is that he's flying. And then the action is that he sees a banana. Oops, I spelled banana wrong. And then he goes to eat it. So he goes to it and eats it. That's my script. And that could be just as simple as your script too. There's a bat, he's flying, he sees a banana, he goes to it, he eats it. That's my script. So from here, the next thing I could do is just kind of, what does my bat look like? Draw my head, just get a little character design working. Head, ears, line of action. If anyone is interested, line of action control is extremely important in animation. So I just put in line of action and I turned it to an image search. And you can see that there's examples of how to do it wrong and how to do it right. If this is the first time you've ever heard about the line of action, don't worry. But it is used in everything for drawings for animation. The stuff that comes out of Pixar is 3D, but the storyboards are drawn by hand. And you always have to pay attention to your line of action. Line of action. It's the rhythm. It's the thing that controls the flow and the force of the pose. All right, so remember that the thing I'm doing here is this could be on paper. It doesn't have to be digital. It can be digital if you want. I did get a response from my coordinator and he said that he doesn't know what's up. The best thing we can do is hit the help button and see if we can help fix the problem. Otherwise, we'll have to get caught up. Otherwise, the idea of you presenting your work to me is going to be a little hard if you don't have anywhere to put it. So I'm going to draw some really big eyes on this bat. My bat has hands and he's got wings. He's also got feet. All right, so it's just my general bat. All right, so I think that working on a design is a good thing for you. It's going to be kind of hard to draw if you don't know what your character looks like. So then you start thumbing it out. And so if I could require anything from you, then just start with your thumbnail. So this is the whole thing here is a 16:9 ratio. Stage, but I can divide it up into 4. If I'm just doing thumbnails, I can say, well, this is my title card. So I'm just going to write title card right here. You know, it's going to just be Booker. You know, and then he's going to be flying. So we're going to start in close with him. We're going to draw the head, the body, his ears, his wings, his feet. He's just going to be flying. Because I didn't spend a lot of time doing this, I might even be able to say, well, you know, I want to draw like a mansion over here. I want to just draw this old Victorian mansion with all these like really old trees, right? And I'm really far away now, so I might want to move these two things away from each other. This is a really high attic in this house. These are trees. My house looks like that. So Booker could actually be flying right here. It could be really small. It could be going this way. So I could put a little directional arrow in here. If I look at this and I say, my house is on the left cinematic thirds, there's nothing here. And Booker is going to fly from left to right. And he's going to wind up on this cinematic third here. So I'm going to just change these two panels out because we can cut. As he's going to fly, he's going to flap, 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 flap. And we can cut to him here. And we could just say, well, there he is. He's seeing it. And now we're gonna cut even closer on him. And there's my head, my line of action. And now I can see his face a little more clearly. And his ears are going to be off the screen because the camera is so close. And he's going to have a reaction. So underneath here, I can say he's going to reaction. So already he's seen the bananas. So let's see what he looks at. If we go back to here, if he's going to be looking down this way, that means there might be a little park. So there might be a little park, and in this park, we're going to say, there's my one vanishing point is over here. Another vanishing point is over here. And we just draw our grid out. And we're going to draw a little picnic table. Just following on that grid, my hand is a little shaky right now. All right, and so there's a couple of bananas that are on this picnic table. And if we want, we could even do a little zoom in. We could push in on the bananas and we could say, go from this corner to this corner, go from this corner to this corner. So there's a little zoom right there. Let's go back to this right here and put in our 001. This is 003. This is 002. This is 004. This is 005. And then 006 can be just a close-up of the bananas. And again, I'm just drawing like a thumbnail, so I'm going to erase this because it was too close. I could have Command Z that a couple of times. That's okay. So I want the bananas to just be in the camera. So it's cinematic third, center, a couple of bananas, just 3 bananas right there. All right, so let's go back to this pose here and take a look at Booker right here. Because in my panel 007, now he's gonna wanna react. So now his eyes here are going to get really big. He's going to get really happy. His eyebrows are going to be way up here because he sees like this big bunch of bananas. Again, these are just thumbnails. This is just your first pass. So like answering John's question just from a minute ago. All right, and then for panel 008, we're going to revisit this shot and he's going to zoom. So now we're going to see him just zooming straight through the screen here. And so I'm going to draw a head, a really straight line of action, his little wings. And I'm going to put a directional arrow. We can come back to this one here in just a moment. All right, so once again, we're still thumbing. And let's go back and look at what our picnic table looked like. So we've got a vanishing point upper left, upper right, and we want to save that for continuity. So upper left, upper right, picnic table. Doesn't have to be exactly the same. In fact, I'm kind of making it intentionally a little closer than this shot so that we can see Booker land. So now I'm going to see the 3 bananas, and Booker is going to come in, he's going to land. So now I got him right in the center of the screen right now. And his wings are kind of folded now. So that's the general pose. I know I want my bananas here, and Booker is going to be here. I could go back to this to say, okay, so this is 009. Then 0010 could be extreme close-up. So what we got working here, just in terms of, this is a mid shot. This is a establishing shot. It's a far away shot. This is a mid shot. This is a mid to close. This is a mid shot. This is an ECU. This is an extreme close-up. The bananas here, extreme close-up. This is a wide shot with him in full figure going through the frame. This is a medium wide shot. It's not picking up all my pixels. This again is an ECU. And so now he's going to be looking at the bananas. And he's really happy. He's like, see, I'm going to put his mouth open all the way into this panel down here, because I want to see how far open his mouth can go. His ears are going to be up here. So I might want to reframe this. I might want to open up my camera just a little wider. So just expressing this pose, get the eyebrows like this. All right, so then I'm not going to use this panel right here. This becomes, this is 011, 11, panel 11. And then here we could do something kind of graphic, where we could do like a little silhouette of him. Reaching for the bananas that are in silhouette as well. So this is just like one of those artistic graphic shots like that. All right, and so just to get through this, the idea would be is to end it as quickly as possible. So I'm just going to do, I'm going to take this right here, I'm going to copy it. And now this has got one of the weirdest copy and paste things ever, but that's okay. Copy it, and I'm going to paste it just here, and I'm going to move it up to this panel. And I'm going to scrub this out. This is now 012. And I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to have, actually, I'm going to move him just a little bit closer. I'm going to get him more ready to eat the banana. And then I'm going to have him stop. So he's going to be stopped right here. And all of a sudden, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to draw his head. And where he was happy, now he's really worried. because there's a boy with a baseball hat. And so this is panel 013. This is 014. And here we've got a pose of just a boy running. And I know I'm kind of getting away from it, but the horizon is here. Perspective. This is the table. And this is the bananas. And maybe the boy was playing tennis or something, and he's got a tennis racket. So we're going to cut back to 015 here, and Booker is going to be like, ah! So he's going to be like, no! So this is his mouth. You know, he's like, ah! And then in the next panel, he just flies away. So here, he doesn't even get to eat his bananas. After all that, we're going to cut back to basically this shot right here. But we're going to set our vanishing points down here, and he's just going to fly away. So he just zips. So what I can do here is, let me get the panel number. This is 016. This is panel 16. So he's just going to take his anticipation. So from here, he's going to lean forward and down. So he's going down and forward, and his wings are going to come up. And then the second pose, so this is pose number 1. And then the second pose is now he's just going to go off the screen. He's going to be looking backwards. So he's just going to go off the screen this way. Panel 017 is this continuation of him. Line of action, arms stretched forwards, legs dangling, his wings beating furiously, and he's looking backwards. And he's still kind of worried. And then the last panel would just be his point of view. So whatever Booker's looking at, now he can see the picnic table smaller, and the boy down there with his tennis racket. Hey, you stay away from my bananas. Right? Those are the bananas. That's the boy kind of shaking his tennis racket back and forth. You know, it might be fun here to go back to this shot here and you don't want to have him break the fourth wall. But you could have him turn his eyes to look forward. And then in the last panel, so just, you know, you want to look at this, where he's in the center of the screen. So in this one, oops. He's looking down a little bit, and he's happy because he managed to steal one of the bananas. So now he's got his little hands out there, and he's got one of the bananas. He just magically stole it. So that just appears, that comes out from behind him. This is his wing. This is his other wing. And this is panel 20, I think it was, right? All right, so I think that what we can do is a couple of things here. Let's review what we've got. And just as we're reviewing here, I think that you all can just take what I've given you here and do the same thing. You could have the same, my bat character just doing the same thing, and you can change it around a little bit if you want, but it's a good place to start. All right, remember, any storyboard for anything that we're doing for this class, unless otherwise stated, is 16:9 ratio. When you're dealing with any composition, you're always dealing with your focal points. And your focal points come from the division of the center, or cinematic thirds, where you divide your shot up into 3 parts horizontal and 3 parts vertical. Your horizon should always be at or around the normal third for a normal camera. You have title safe and action safe areas around the edge that you should always kind of stay away from. The upper left should always be your panel number. The upper right would be your shot number. The lower right is your timing or your slug. All right, so this is just me talking about pulling from Bird Box Studios. Any story should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Because it's a very, very short story for us, it's a gag, setup, something happens, and the payoff. All right, and then you have your script. In your script, if it's only going to be 20 story panels or less, it shouldn't be any more than this. Basically, what you're thinking about here are verbs. In animation, we animate the verbs. So flying, sees the banana, goes to it. You know, that was our original script. Have a design, and you're more than welcome to work with this guy here, or whatever kind of bat you want to design. And then you just start drawing out your thumbnails. For Wednesday, thumbnails is fine. So your title card, and number your panels, at least number your panels. You don't have to have the shot numbers on here. But if we did this, if this title card was not animated, then it would not be a shot. If there was animation, then it would be a shot. So if you're going to do this correctly, this would be shot 1. This would be shot 2, because this is shot 1. SH01. This is a cut, so you're going from this extremely wide or establishing shot to a mid shot, and you can either zoom in on this to see his reaction. So the zoom would be something like this. So we see this composition here, and our story panel would go from like the medium shot to this, and this would be a zoom. So even though panel 4, this is still shot 2. Shot 2 just starts out medium and goes to a medium close-up. So this is still shot 2. This is shot 3. And there's a zoom on it as well. So this is still shot 3. There's a cut to Booker. So this is shot 4. And this is a cut of him going wide. So this should be shot 5. This is shot 6. This is shot 7. This is shot 8. This is still shot 8. If we do the same thing, if we look at this pose, it would be unnecessary for us to do a cut. It would be a jump cut. So just do a zoom, and this is still shot 8. The boy running is shot 9. We cut back to this, which is a reuse of shot 8, but it's technically shot 10. And let's look. So yes, this is shot 11. And the camera can follow him. So all the rest of this is still shot 11. All right, so those are the thumbnails. I think that would be fine for something to show me for Wednesday. All right, so at this point, what I'd like to do is ask you if you have any questions. Questions, anybody? I know it went really fast, but I'm recording this. I'll put it up on YouTube and I'll email you the YouTube link and you can look at it. Let's see what I got in my, okay, so Ryan is just talking there. One new message. Yes, Ryan, there is a limit. I think that the 20 little sketches that I just drew for you right now is plenty. If you're going over 20, you're doing it wrong. You're overdoing it. So at this point, don't overdo it. Just keep it something that's just doable and works good. All right. I'm not hearing any other questions from the gallery. Let me just take a look. Oh, hold on. Let me do it this way.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do we have to make the storyboard in Rough Animator?
No. No, you can draw it. You can use these.
Oh, perfect.
You
Okay,
can draw
cool.
it on paper. But remember, the way our class looks like right now is that this is what we have. There's nothing up here that allows you to post anything in the class, right? There's nothing in downloads. There's nothing in links. There's no media. And then there's your classmates. So when you look at the outline, this is like a typical class that would be set up for an on-ground class at the academy. I think they might have given me the wrong shell. If they can add a discussion in here, like in this class, in this version of the class, there's a discussion. And in the discussion, I can add a topic and you can post stuff to it, which is ideal. Because then that way you don't have to worry about sharing your screen or whatever. You could take pictures of your work as JPEGs, as animation, as QuickTime movies, and upload them to the class. So we have to wait until I get a response from our IT people. But you can see that even though it's still exploring animation, it's set up, well, this class is set up that they meet asynchronously. So this class goes all the way to the 11th of August, right? You see that? So our class is accelerated. We meet Mondays and Wednesdays, and we're done by July 30th. So on our list, we have 4 weeks, right? And we're done. 4 weeks. So it's accelerated, but there's no place to put your media here. Yes, you can draw it if you would like to. All right, so let me do one more thing here for the last little bit, and that is like explaining how you would take it to the next step. Okay, so what I've got right here is I'm just using this animation application to draw storyboards. And I think that it would be fine. I think that if you were being precise about it, that what you could do here is to say, I'm going to file, and you're going to export a QuickTime movie, or you could export a PNG sequence or a GIF as a GIF. This exporting as a PNG, portable network graphic sequence, would be ideal, because then you would just get well, I just screwed up my desktop, but now I've got like a whole bunch of images here. So let me take, I don't know where my rough animator file went to. I'm going to put my rough animator file away. And I'm going to drop all these inside a folder. And it'll show me immediately when I do this, that now I got a bunch of temporary files in there. I've got my PNG sequence, which, oops, hold on, wait, stop. Which just looks like this. Those are just the sequence, and then my main rough animator file is here. These are just temporary files. Hopefully they're the right ones. If they're not, my computer will let me know. All right, so in looking at this, I would say that one thing that you can do is that we've got, starting right here, we've got 20 different story panels to tell the story of Booker grabbing the bananas, because he's a fruit bat. And so what you can do is you can open up a layer on top of this one. And so if you're thinking of using this rough animator to draw with, you really have to have some sort of digital stylus. You're welcome to have one of the pens that Apple sells, or there's a bunch of different ways of getting your work just working digitally, just right from the get-go. But so one thing that you can do here is you can say, I'm going to add a layer on top of this right here. And so this is adding layers right here, and this is adding drawings this way time-wise. The other things in the toolbox here, and this is everything that the application has in it. You have a pen, you have a brush, you have an eraser, you have a paint bucket, you have a selector, you have a zoom in, and you have a hand tool, which is also the space bar. You have a play button, and if we played this, it would just go way too fast, right? And it loops, right? This is just your tool options. The only things that are a little bit tricky is that this makes your timeline zoom. This gives onion skin to whatever you're working on. So if you are here and you say, I want my onion skin to show everything, you can see that it gets a little messy right there. So you just usually turn this off unless you're working with keyframes. But then you can also change the opacity on your layers. So like right here, what we're going to do is we're going to add a bunch of frames, and we're going to add drawing after. So this drawing right here, what we can do is we could take our title card and we can say, on this layer right here, I'm going to take my main layer, I'm going to take the opacity down so that I can, so that it's just very light, right? And so on this frame right here, I could just say, well, I could go the whole entire frame, or I could just take my blue and I can say in more of a finished kind of larger size, I can just say, this is my title screen. And I'm doing it like this for a reason, because then that way we can keep the panel number and we can keep the title card here. But now I can say Booker. And I can go at this at a little bit bigger of a size. Right, so I'm just kind of looking at it in terms of what that title card might look like. Could even dress it up a little bit. This is supposed to be like a tree in the background or something. And this will be a bush. All right. And then on the next frame here, what I can do is if I want to do this panel, I'm sorry, this panel right here, then I come down to here and I say duration. I want one more frame down here. So when I go to this panel, add a drawing. And now for this one, we're going to do this. We're going to do this big background here. So now we're technically tying it down or cleaning it up. And we're cleaning it up right over the top of it. So once again, I don't have my shift key where I can draw perfectly straight lines. I believe the PC version or even the iPad version, you can draw perfectly straight lines. I think there might even be a tool in here. All right, so now we're doing this background right here. So just for the last couple minutes here, let's talk about bringing this one to life here. So this is panel 2. It is animated, so it's shot 1. SH01. SH01. Normally your establishing shots last for however many seconds you need them. So if he is a good 25 meters away and he's flying, you know, this could last 8 seconds. So I'm just going to write 8 seconds down here just to start with. And I'm going to copy what I have right here. So I'm just going to start it in blue. I'm going to draw this little hill here. It looks like I wanted another hill over here. All right, then I got this house. I got this large Victorian mansion. And again, the focal points, right? So I'm near this focal point. So this is the tall. All right, another reason why I'm doing it like this is because this application doesn't allow me to draw off the stage. So I'm just compensating for that by giving myself a stage inside a stage. All right, so this is my mansion. And I can come back and I can put in some details in there if I want. I'm just looking for a good silhouette. This is the front door. These are the steps. There's a shrubbery. All right, and then from my rough, there was another tree out here, which was smaller. And this one's bending this way. So I'm going to kind of bend this one this way, just for interest's sake. All right, and then Booker is flying here. So in my rough, I can just see it right there. You see he's small, he's right there. So he's just, this is his body, his head, his ears, his wings, his feet. And he's going to fly. In storyboards, you can definitely use a directional arrow. So if I wanted to go back here now, what I can do is like make sure that everything is right by putting in my perspective grid. I could put the perspective in the sky. And it's big enough now so that I can go in here and say, how do I want to break up this tree? How do I want my cluster of leaves to look like? I'll make it cartoony. I want little pockets of light coming from behind it. Maybe there's one branch right here that's kind of broken. And some roots. Some details on the leaves. Right, so you can see here that this is how you kind of taking your original sketches and just kind of dressing them up, tying it down, paying attention to everything we just talked about for where are the focal points, where is your perspective, where is your vanishing points, are you using 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspective? All right, so then let's go back here. So we have this shot, which is the close-up of him. So I need one more frame down here. And in this one, I want to add another frame afterwards. So now we're doing this shot. This is, let's make sure we did this right. This is panel 2, shot 1. So this is panel 3. Shot 2. SH_2. If I go back to this one, I could say this was 8 seconds, right? And we're just establishing that there's an old mansion and there's a bat flying up there. So now in this, he's got to still be flying the right direction. And so now we need to draw Booker. So if he was moving from left to right, it might make sense to draw him near the left focal point. So now we're just going to get his head, his little cheek, his eyes, his little ears, some details on his face, line of action. So now we're going to decide that his body is going to be just a little smaller than what we had in even in this drawing, because I think it just looks better. Here, his hands are just going to be kind of draped. They're not doing anything. His wings are doing all the work. And his feet are dragging behind. Try to give everything a good silhouette so that the legs aren't crossing over each other. We can see where each part is. I can see the little hint of his wing in the back over here. You know, I could put the little motion lines. In this shot, we were far enough away that I really don't see anything. So, but there's lots of other things. There's 3 other focal points here. This tree down here, we might be able to cheat it and say that we can see part of that tree, just so that we don't lose any relative placement of where things are. All right, so that's just the basic approach. And you know, here I could be doing this with paper, or I could be drawing it digitally. It's really up to you. Again, you are more than welcome to use this little story that I've just given you, or just write your own. You know, setup, action, something has to pay off. Write your little script. Think about the verbs. That gives you all of the action you need. All right, do I have any questions from the field? See what I got in my message box over here. Yeah, so Tiffany's asking whether we show your storyboards on Zoom. I will let you know as soon as I find out if you're allowed to upload, or if you can upload things to the class. Otherwise, you're gonna have to find a way to show your screen, and I'm gonna have to keep record of it here. I really don't want to be using the school's email in order to deliver files. It's just too clunky. Hopefully it'll be resolved today and I can just let everybody know. All right, there is no textbook for this class. I would say if I was you, and I'm not because that would be painful, that just use your online references. Again, just to reiterate, this is just a main push, the main start of thinking about doing storyboards. In this class, we go and do hand-drawn animation, stop motion cutouts. Pixelation is done with a movie camera, taking frame by frame. We do clay animation. And then in the last, we'll do something digital. So I don't want you going out and buying a storyboard textbook. You know, the online references are good. And just remember to go and look up John Corellis. I don't know where I put that tab. Where did I put that tab? Do with that tab. All right, other questions? Any other questions? So the storyboard, and it can be, I think that if you're doing it like I was just doing it, that would be fine. You want to work on something that is 20 panels or less. You're animating the verbs. You're interested in drawing what the line of action looks like in any of those poses in 18 to 20 story panels. Don't draw any more. This is not something that you're going to have to actually animate, but just get a feeling for what drawing storyboards is like. And I think that if you're using regular sheet of paper and one of these little cardboard templates, this is the best. Then that way, instead of me drawing the little you just draw it. Then you can take a picture of it with your phone, and eventually you can either send it to the class or present it digitally by showing us your screen. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Okay, I want professionally done storyboards by noon on Wednesday. They have to be perfect. You have to be ready to work at Pixar on Wednesday. All right, I see one smile in there. I'm just teasing you, everybody. You'll also be professional storyboards by the end of Wednesday afternoon. Tiffany will figure it out. On Wednesday, we'll figure out where and how you can show me your boards. Also, if we have to wait until next week to just get caught up, we can always do that too. We can always do that too. All right, I will let you go 4 minutes early today. It's hard screaming and talking for 2 hours straight. All right, I will see all of you on Wednesday. And again, you can use my little story. I don't think there's a picture of Booker online anywhere. I don't remember where he is. Just come up with your own bat and your own little 10-second story. And we'll see you on Wednesday. I'll email everyone a posting of this YouTube link within an hour or so. Okay. Okay, bye.
Oh, I just had one
Bye.
question.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
So if we don't want to use Rough Animated, but we still wanted to do it digitally, can we use a different program and do it the exact same way?
Do you want to draw in Photoshop? That would be fine.
Yeah, I was thinking I use Flip-a-Clip for that. It's on my iPad and it's easier to draw on for me
What's it
because I don't
called?
have Photoshop. Flip-a-Clip.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, Thank you, because I'm in the car and I wanted to start working on it at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
So
Look, the coordinator recommended that flip a clip. He recommended it. So yes, 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 yes.
okay,
My answer is
thank you.
yes. You're welcome.
and by Wednesday we just have to get the thumbnails and maybe a few of the actual like storyboard panels
Yeah.
in, right?
Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
good. That sounds really good.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Quick
Caroline,
question.
you have rabbit ears up there. Carolina, you're a
Do have
rabbit.
a question before I go.
Okay.
Wouldn't the tree in the drawing be drawn on the right and on the left instead of the right? Because you originally drew it on the left?
You can do whatever you want.
I
Sure.
was just curious.
No, you can do whatever you want. And I haven't said this yet, but you know, on the principles of animation sheet that I just sent you, I think that one of the things that I missed was you should be having fun with it. You know you're doing animation right if you're having fun with it. If you're struggling and you're getting upset, then you're doing it wrong. So yeah, have fun with it. Okay, we'll see you on Wednesday.
Following up with the program question,
Yes.
would it be okay to use Procreate
Sure.
for storyboarding?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
Oh, okay, cool.
no worries.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, we'll see you on Wednesday.